Good morning, everyone. It is 10 a.m. and I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors Friday, October 2nd, 2020. Please note the meeting is recorded, and Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Conroy.
Present.
Present. Director Fredericks.
Here.
Director Garbarino.
Here. Here.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosboll.
Here.
Thank you. Director Hernandez.
Here.
Thank you. Director Hill.
Here.
Director Maston.
Here.
Director Melgar.
Here.
Director Rabbit.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Here.
Director Snyder.
Here. Sorry. Here.
Thank you. Director Stephanie.
Present.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Here.
First Vice President Tirio.
Here.
And President Barr.
Present.
Thank you. You have a quorum. I'm going to confirm staff really quickly. Dennis Mulligan.
Thank you.
Present.
Joe Wire.
Yes.
John Eberly.
Present.
Madeline Chen.
Present.
Steve Miller.
Here. Good morning.
Mona Babauta.
Present.
And Jim Swindler.
Present.
Thank you. Kelly Hopper is actually absent today, so I'm not going to call on her, and I know that now. Thank you, and that confirms everyone online.
Thank you very much. Thank you, board members, for attending today. It's almost a full board today, isn't it, Amaret?
We're very close. We are just missing two.
Yes. So thank you for joining us this morning, and we appreciate your continued patience as we continue to conduct our business in this way. I'll be asking board members if they have comments or questions on the agenda items. If there are questions, the secretary or I will call on you accordingly. And after the discussion, we'll be taking the appropriate roll call. And as usual, if you are not speaking, please mute your phones to minimize the noise on the call. And remember to unmute them when you are speaking. That seems to be our hardest problem, is unmuting. So Amaret's good, she reminds us. Each page of the meeting packet is numbered on the bottom right-hand corner to make it easier to follow along. Director Grosboll, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
Okay.
To the flag
of the United States of America,
Of America.
to the republic
for which it stands,
One God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grosboll. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. We're moving on to public comment for any and all items on today's agenda. If you wish to speak to an item today, you don't have to wait for the item. Please speak to it now. Justine's on the line to moderate our public comment line. Justine, I believe we do have a few speakers today, so why don't you go ahead and introduce our first speaker.
Our first speaker this morning is Kimberly Renee. Our first speaker this morning is Kimberly Renee Gamboa. Go ahead, Kimberly.
Okay, good morning. My name is Kimberly Renee Gamboa, and I am holding one of my favorite cool pictures of my 18-year-old son, Kyle Emerson Gamboa. On September 20th, 2013, at 11:45 a.m., Kyle jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. I just wanted to thank you for your continued efforts on the construction of the suicide deterrent. These are difficult times, and I don't think they are going away anytime soon. But having the suicide deterrent, I think, is just really going to save lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly Renee, for joining us each time.
Our next speaker is Dave Rohde. Mr. Rohde? Please use star to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Rohde.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm having a phone difficulty here, and I apologize. So I assume that I am unmuted here, right?
You are. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Board members, managers, and staff, good morning. My name is Dave Rohde. I'm a writer and activist with Al Gore's Climate Reality Project. I've been a resident of San Francisco for 40 years. I'm here today with a news flash. The latest report from the California Air Resources Board shows that the state's carbon emissions have significantly decreased. Great news, right? No, it's not great news. CARB arrived at this optimistic report by cheating. They enacted a new policy that reclassifies carbon emissions from renewable diesel and other biofuels as biogenic CO2. And biogenic CO2 is not included in the state's latest summary of carbon emissions. This, in my opinion, is equivalent to fraud. It would be like saying that hate crimes in California have decreased because we no longer count attacks on Native Americans as hate crimes. Mine and several other climate action groups are taking this up with CARB, and we're planning to meet next month with State Senator Scott Wiener. Let me go over this again. The life cycle analysis of renewable diesel conducted by the International Council on Clean Transportation shows that when you consider the emissions from the planting and harvesting of crops used in renewable diesel, along with emissions from transport and refining, the carbon footprint of renewable diesel is equal to that of petroleum diesel. Big Oil is behind this fraud. They invented renewable diesel, purposely giving it a name that sounds like a clean, sustainable fuel. The Phillips 66 refinery in Rodeo plans to become the world's largest supplier of RD because they are banking on CARB and on transit agencies like the Golden Gate Bridge District to continue buying this lie. I'm not saying that RD, that what you're using in your buses and ferries isn't somewhat cleaner. It has 5% less carbon and a lot less nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas hundreds of times more potent than carbon. So the emissions coming out of your buses and your buses and ferry tailpipes is moderately cleaner. But in using RD, you have to take responsibility for all the carbon emissions from the tractors and the harvesters back in Iowa, where the corn was grown, and the fumes from diesel trucks that haul RD stock here, and finally for the emissions from the refineries. The biggest problem with RD is that it's not a solution. It's not even a short-term solution. It is not getting us any closer to net zero carbon emissions, even if you choose to call it its emissions of biogenic CO2. Worse, it has become a comfortable excuse for not moving faster to electric ferries and buses, and of course, it's sanctioned by the state. California has a responsibility to lead on climate action and act now. We need to stop kicking the can down the road. These are the words of State Senator Scott Wiener in a speech a couple of months ago. That's why we're meeting with him. We need to know how promoting the use of RD and justifying it by reclassifying its emissions is not kicking the can down the road. You may not be familiar with Scott Wiener's quote, but you will recall Thomas Paine, the author of Common Sense, the path that inspired the American Revolutionary War. When it comes to the bold actions we need to address the climate crisis, his most famous line resonates as clearly as ever. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rohde, for your information.
Our next speaker is Shane Weinstein. Shane, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Chair Power?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Shane.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Power, directors. My name is Shane Weinstein, president of the ATU 1575. I represent all active and retired bus operators at the Golden Gate Bridge. I came before you at the last meeting to bring forth two emergencies that are currently happening and only getting worse. Those two emergencies are bus operator pension plan that is in absolute disarray due to the lack of district funding for decades now, and which is currently funded at 50%. And we also have a personnel problem with an absolute mass exodus of operators occurring right now due to the lack of money, working conditions, and an uncertain future. Since the district has been unable to hire and get operators out on the road in a timely manner, with so many current operators quitting, retiring, and otherwise, that extra work is then dumped on those that are here. These operators are exhausted, they're underpaid, and uncertain about their future because, again, continual underfunding of this pension by the district long before they even were employed. It is time to fix these problems instead of ignoring them and kicking the can down the road. Today's general manager's report includes two very important topics. The first being separations. And although the general manager showed that between January 1st, 2020 and October 8th, 2021, there were 45 full-time employee separations. I can assure you that the lion's share of those came recently, not in early 2020. But directors, this was exclusive of 38 retirements during that time. Again, I can assure you that most of, if not all of these retirements were sped way up because, again, the working conditions, schedule, money had declined and been deleted. This will continue to occur if we don't shore up these issues that are forcing people to retire and leave at a rapid pace. There were 83 separations to only 13 new hires. The final and most important topic is future FTA grant funding. I truly hope we can all work together and figure out how to put the aforementioned topics that are creating a mass exodus and fix them. More so than ever, we must fix this pension. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shane.
President Parr, I'd like to be able to poll the room again. I believe a few people may have joined after the meeting started. Would you mind?
Of course.
Thank you.
You have been muted. President Parr, while you're doing that, I just want to let you know that Director Arnold has joined the call, so we are only missing Director Giudice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
President Parr, we do not have any more speakers this morning.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Mulligan, would you like to offer any response to any of the comments?
Certainly. Just very briefly, with respect to Mr. Rohde, it appears he has a dispute with the experts at the state's regulatory agency for air quality, California Air Resources Board, regarding the issue of renewable diesel, and we will watch that unfold very closely. We don't pretend to have expertise in this matter. We have historically deferred to the state, and we're pleased that Senator Wiener's involved as a former board member. We're very familiar with him and his passion for solving problems. With respect to Mr. Shane Weinstein, we acknowledge the pension is in a world of hurt, and we will do a presentation to the board hopefully next month with respect to the status of the ATU pension plan that is for our bus operators. When it comes time for the general manager's report, I can talk about attrition at the district, because I think that'll be the appropriate juncture for that. And that concludes my responses.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the public comments to the board. Madam Secretary, would you please continue to the next item on the agenda?
Item number 5 is to approve the consent calendar, including approval of minutes from our September committee and board meeting, as well as our October 1st special board meeting, and ratification of previous actions by the Auditor Controller. The consent calendar is located on pages 5 to 29 of your board packet.
All right, thank you. Before we take our vote, are there any questions, comments, or concerns from board members on the consent calendar? Hearing none, may I have a motion on this item?
Move to approve, Director Terrio.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
I'll second this, Bert.
All right, thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We have a first and we have a second, and we're voting on item number 5, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Aye. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino,
Yes.
Director Giudice, absent Director Grossball,
Yes.
Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Hill,
Yes.
Director Maston,
Aye.
Director Melgar,
Aye.
Director Rabbit,
Aye.
Director Rodoni,
Aye.
Director Snyder,
Aye.
Director Stephanie,
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
First Vice President Terrio, First Vice President Terrio, we're voting on the consent
Yes, sorry, I
calendar.
dropped off accidentally. Aye.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you, Madam Secretary. The motion passes. Please introduce the next item.
Item 6A is the report of the general manager, and that report can be found on page 31. Dennis, as he mentioned earlier, will be presenting his report. Dennis, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, President Parr, members of the board, members of the public. My written report is before you, and I'll highlight a couple of items that are in the report, as well as one that's later in your agenda. One of the exciting items on your agenda today is the adoption of a proposed new ferry route that would provide ferry service between San Francisco and Angel Island. If you approve that item today, as part of the board's process to set the fare for new service, the district will hold a public hearing on Friday, November 5th at 1 p.m. And then after that, at your November meeting, you would adopt the fare for this service, at which juncture we would then be free to operate it. So we could be operating that service prior to the end of November. Other items going on, the California Public Employees Pension Reform Act of 2013, commonly referred to as PEPRA, took steps to help provide financial solvency to pensions. Of interest to us is the bus driver's pension that was mentioned by one of the speakers under public comment is not subject directly to PEPRA in that you have no discretionary authority over it. There's a separate pension trust that manages it. But it's a big issue for the Amalgamated Transit Union nationwide. And in August of 2019, the ATU, the Amalgamated Transit Union, filed suit against the United States Department of Labor in Federal District Court regarding this. And anytime a transit agency such as the Bridge District receives a grant from the Federal Transit Administration, before we can access the money, the FTA sends it to the U.S. Department of Labor and asks they certify that the grant recipient has labor protective arrangements in place that are fair and equitable. What the Secretary of Labor does is they reach out to the unions that are represented and have relationships with that employer, and they get feedback from them. That process is commonly referred to as Section 13C, and if the USDOL does not sign off, the transit agency does not receive the grant. So the litigation from the ATU against USDOL challenged those 13C certifications that they were making. Fortunately, the USDOL, up until recently, was arguing that PEPRA did not permissibly impair the continuation of collective bargaining rights under Section 13C. So that was a welcome defense by California transit agencies. However, earlier this month, on Friday, October 8th, the USDOL filed a brief with the district court announcing that they're going to change their position. Even more recently, they've now filed a new filing with USDOL. And so they're changing their position, which introduces a lot of uncertainty with respect to our ability to access additional and future FTA grants. The ATU, in response to USDOL filing, has countered, and they don't want the court to start all over. And so it's likely the court will have some procedural matters before them. It'll be a lot of uncertainty, but I wanted to highlight it because it does affect future grants. Unfortunately, the COVID relief money that's been previously allocated by MTC has already been certified by USDOL, and it's been obligated or provided to the Bridge District. But any upcoming grants, such as MTC's action next week to provide additional one-time federal COVID relief funds, and any future grants for projects would be subject to this uncertainty. So I will keep you abreast of this matter as it unfolds at future meetings. With respect to travel in the corridor, travel in the Golden Gate corridor still remains well below pre-pandemic levels. During the week of October 3rd, bus ridership was down by 68%. We only carried 32% of our normal bus ridership, so we do not need as many bus operators today as we did 2 years ago to meet the needs of our customers with respect to the demand for bus service. Similarly, with respect to ferry ridership, that's down 82%, so we only carried 18% of normal ferry ridership. Bridge traffic is down 18% that same week, and it's been down between 18 and 20% now for about 8 months. And so we have not seen a rebound in traffic. We look forward to the reopening of downtown San Francisco after hopefully the first of the year. We continue to lose about $1.2 to $1.3 million every week. That's been ongoing since January of this year. And so we're very fortunate and grateful for the one-time federal COVID relief money that MTC has allocated to us. With respect to the reopening of San Francisco, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the Bay Area Council partnered to conduct monthly research of employers to understand their reopening plans. They originally envisioned that ceasing in August, and that would be the last poll. I think that date was tied to vaccinations becoming readily available and the grand reopening of California on June 15th. However, the rapid rise of the Delta variant and the rise in infections has changed plans for many employers. So the Bay Area Council will continue to poll their members for several more months to ascertain the reopening. At this juncture, it does appear that downtown San Francisco will not reopen until sometime in 2022. Other things going on, we have a whole host of regulatory requirements that we comply with a variety of different agencies. One of those is tied to the Federal Transit Administration that provides a lot of funding for our bus and ferry system. And last year on October 23rd, you approved a new agency safety plan for the district. We are doing an annual update of that. The changes are all minor and ministerial, basically tied to changes in the COVID transit service levels, and then the notation of our new bus division mentor and apprenticeship programs, as well as some safety newsletters we've added. This month, the Bay Area Toll Authority, or BATA, which is responsible for tolls with Caltrans on the other toll bridges in the Bay Area, is considering a proposal to reduce the penalties associated with non-payment or late payment of tolls. Currently, if someone doesn't pay their toll on time, they receive a $25 penalty, and if they still don't pay it, that amount increases to a total of $70. So they're proposing changes that would reduce those amounts to $5 and $15 respectively, and they would apply retroactively to January 1st. They need to apply it retroactively to January 1st because they did not have an orderly scheduled transition to all electronic tolling. The pandemic thrust them or lurched them into all electronic tolling when they removed the toll collectors for public safety reasons. So district staff is currently evaluating options and impacts associated with reducing penalties for unpaid tolls, and we'll bring recommended changes to the board in the coming months. We agree that it's an opportune time to look at the penalties and to perhaps reduce those, addressing equity concerns, as well as ensuring that we collect adequate funds for our bus and ferry services. Last month, there was a question about separations from the district between January 1st of 2020 and October 8th of 2021, which is a little over a year and a half. We had 45 full-time employee separations, exclusive of retirements, termination, death, and casual or temporary assignments. That represents about 5% of our total workforce. Out of those 45 employees, some separated for other reasons, such as to relocate across the country to be closer to family. But we do have a process wherein when people leave, we sit down and chat with them and find out why. A total of the 18 resignations were the result of new employment. The people left the district to take a job someplace else. Those employees that left for elsewhere employment is about 2% of our workforce over a period of 18 months. And that's from a variety of different classifications throughout the district. With respect to an item that's been in my report for a couple of years now, we had an incident where a ferry struck our facility in the San Francisco Ferry Plaza. That item is being wrapped up. The Port of San Francisco has performed their final inspection of the promenade repair works, so that item will disappear from my report shortly. I now want to come to the most rewarding part of the general manager's report, and that's recognitions. We have 2 employee retirements this month and 2 20-year recognitions. We're pleased to announce that bus operator Chuck Casillas retired on October 1st after 24 years and 4 months of service with the district. Prior to coming to the district, he worked as a bus operator for Yola Bus located in Woodland, California. In his free time, Mr. Casillas enjoys playing and spending time with his grandchildren, Kennedy, James, and Peyton. He also enjoys attending rock and country music concerts across the country. Chuck is, of note, a Gold Star parent. He had a child that died in action in service of our country in Afghanistan on July 4th, 2009. We're very proud of Chuck's service to the district and to his child's service to our country. We wish Chuck a long and happy retirement. One of Chuck's classmates that was started the same day as him and was in the same bus operator class is also retired on the same date. And that's Joselito Legaspi, and Joselito retired on October 1st, also after 24 years and 4 months of service with the district. He joined the district as a part-time operator on April 21st, 1997, and became a full-time operator on June 8th. And we wish him a long and happy retirement. We have 2 20-year service awards. The first is for Jesus Rodriguez. Jesus celebrated 20 years of service with the district on October 19th. He joined the district as a lane worker. Those are the employees that would put the tubes in the roadway when we didn't have a movable median barrier. And he started with us in 2001. He was promoted to a bridge laborer in April of 2013. And subsequent to my report being published and sent to you, I'm pleased to announce that on Wednesday he was promoted again, this time to a roadway services supervisor. So congratulations to him on 20 years of service and to his recent promotion on Wednesday. We also want to recognize 20 years of service for one of our bus mechanics, Hung Lam. Hung Lam celebrated 20 years of service on October 22nd, and he's been serving us well in the bus division, and we congratulate him on his service. For the Employee of the Month, after reviewing nominations submitted by their fellow employees, the Employee of the Month Committee recognized and selected Michael Odera as the Employee of the Month for October 2021. Michael is a mechanic in the Ferry division. He's very creative and always is the first to suggest innovative ideas when it comes to ways to make things work better and to work things safely. He takes the initiative regarding preventative maintenance, and he takes on new tasks and challenges all the time and is incredibly dedicated and is recognized by his employees, fellow employees. Before he joined the district on May 15, 2013, he held positions as an electrician and mechanic at Dahlbeck Electric, as an electrician mechanic at California Electric, and as a mechanic at Vincent Electric Motor. He was born in the East Bay and still lives in the East Bay, and we're pleased that he's been with us, and we're proud that he's been recognized by his colleagues. In his spare time, he enjoys cycling, particularly mountain biking, as well as off-road motorcycling. He was a junior national golf champion when he was 14 and 15 years old, and he enjoys sometimes purchasing used bicycles, repairing them, and donating them to charities. So hats off to Michael. And that concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. As usual, we need to comment on the incredible employees that we have. Congratulations to the retirees, and we appreciate the years and years of service, and also to the Employee of the Month. With that, are there questions or comments or concerns from the board members?
This is Dick Graswell. I do have a question.
Yes, Dick, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, of the, I don't recall, and I don't know if we've had this data before, but having 18 employees resign and have 7 going to other agencies is a little worrisome. Do we know if those were Bay Area transit agencies that they went to?
We have the specifics. I didn't include them in the report. Some were in the Bay Area and some were outside the area. For instance, we had one that relocated to Portland to work for a transit agency up there. So it's a mix. So we're seeing more than we did in the past. Fortunately, there's an item on your agenda later for the non-represented employees that contemplates a wage increase. And on October 1st, you approved the wage increase for the non-represented employees because it's important that our compensation package, not be out of whack with respect to the region. But 18 employees is a little higher than usual. We've had employees, like I said, go to a transit agency in Portland. We had an employee go to Google. It's tough to compete with their compensation package. So we've had an interesting and diverse mix of those that have left. There isn't one area where we're seeing mass resignations or anything. 2% attrition over a year and a half is not excessively high, but it is something that we are watching.
I'm wondering if we could continue to get this data periodically, because it is interesting and it is a little worrisome that, and we're talking, it sounds like these were not all operators, bus operators. They were in positions throughout the district. That's correct?
That's correct. That's correct. It's a variety of different positions in every division in the district.
Yeah. And if only 18, so that leaves 27 who just, who resigned, and they just left but they weren't retirements. What do we think happened to those people?
Some are relocations. And so sometimes people just leave. The Bay Area is an expensive place to live, or they may have a partner that has family ties in another part of the country. So we had one bus operator who leave to move to Tennessee. He's a young operator. His father works elsewhere in the district, not in the bus division, but his partner is in Tennessee, so he relocated to Tennessee. And when someone relocates across the country for matters of the heart, I don't think that's a concern. When they relocate to go to other public or private agencies in the Bay Area for a different compensation package or working conditions, that is a concern. So that's why we conduct exit interviews when people leave, and we do track the data. But I look forward to doing periodic reports to the board regarding this topic, so you're informed with respect to what the trends are for our workforce.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this is
Director Hernandez.
Oh, go ahead, Sabrina.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Madam President. I share the same concerns as my colleague, Director Grosboll, and I also am wondering, there's a discrepancy between the number that was commented earlier, 83 separations. I don't recall at this moment whether those 83 separations that were quoted in the by ATU Representative Weinstein were exclusive to the the bus division and operators. But it is alarming to me, actually, that this number of employees have resigned. 45, depending on how you use your math, could be a big or a small number, make a big or a small impact, but it still, in my mind, is substantial. I'm happy to hear that Dennis, you will be reporting to us periodically. I would say at least quarterly on this, given the dynamic developments here and trying to stay on top of the impacts with COVID. But I also would like to specifically ask for more details as to where the employees come from who are resigning, which divisions are experiencing the greatest impact. I think that is important in order to inform decision making both on the committee level and the board level. Thank you.
Certainly, we'll provide a quarterly report, and the next time we'll include more detail with respect to what the classifications were that left for jobs with other entities.
Thank you, Director Hernandez, for that request. That was what I was going to ask for too. I think there's also a tendency for board members to get in the weeds on things like that, and I don't intend that, but I think it would be helpful for our decision making if we knew sort of where they went and what division they were from. That would help us when we get comments from the public and specifically from ATU as to the fact that they feel that they have an inordinate amount of employees who have gone other places. So I'd appreciate that. And thank you, General Manager Mulligan, for offering to do that. I think that will make our decision making more important and more informed. So thank you. Are there other questions or comments or concerns from board members? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Mulligan, for your report. And Madam Secretary, would you please introduce the next item?
Thank you. Item 6B is the report of the attorney, and Attorney Madeline Chun is here today to present her report. Madeline, go ahead and proceed with your report.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. President Parr, members of the board, members of the public, you have our informational report, which appears on page 45 of the material, and we'd be happy to answer any questions if you have concerning that. Also, we have on page 47, we have an action item, and this action is to authorize the ratification of a memorandum of understanding with the Public Employees Union Local 1 AFSCME Council 57, representing the Bridge Painters Bargaining Unit. So the details of that I will turn over to Dennis, and I think maybe our district's labor negotiator, Molly Caven, may also be on the line in order to explain the terms of that memorandum, which is also summarized in our item on page 47.
Yes, staff recommends, and the Labor Advisory Committee has reviewed this, it's recommended that the board approve a new memorandum of understanding that covers a period of from ratification through July 1, 2024. It would provide a 2.5% wage increase upon ratification and a lump sum payment, one-time non-pensionable of $1,000, effective for the pay period in which ratification occurs. Then it would provide for another wage increase July 1st of 2022 and another wage increase of July 1st, 2023. Those two subsequent wage increases would be 2% unless bridge traffic achieves certain milestones. If bridge traffic achieves 90% of pre-pandemic traffic levels for southbound bridge traffic, which is tied to our resources, then the 2% wage increase would increase, so it would become a 2.5% wage increase. If bridge traffic responds to and comes back to a level of 95% pre-pandemic levels, instead of that, they would get a total 3% wage increase. So that'll be checked for several months prior to the July 1, 2022 date, and again before the July 1, 2023 date. So they'll get either a 2, 2.5, or 3% wage increase on those dates. There's various other things that are contained in that that are relatively minor. It does, of note, include a Me Too clause. So if the district agrees to a more generous compensation package with the union coalition, that the painters would also receive it. But we're pleased to recommend this 3-year agreement with our painters, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments for General Manager Mulligan? All right. In that case, I would take a motion to ratify the Memorandum of Understanding with Public Employees Union Local 1, AFSCME, Council 57. May I have such a motion?
So moved, Director Fredericks.
All right, thank you. May I have a second? Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call?
Thank you. We're voting on item 6B2, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Aye. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosbol.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Hill.
Aye.
Director Mastin.
Aye.
Director Milgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. You have 16 ayes.
Thank you. The motion passes, and that's with a thank you to everyone who is involved in the negotiations of this MOU. Madam Secretary, would you please introduce the next item?
Item 6C is report of the Chief Engineer, and that report can be found on page 49 of your board meeting packet. Deputy District Engineer John Eberly is here to represent the report on behalf of Ava Barr-Furbish. Mr. Eberly, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. President Parr, members of the board, as Secretary stated, our written report can be found beginning on page 49, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Eberly. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from the board members related to the Chief Engineer's report? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item?
I'm moving on to item 8, since there are no other reports under item 7. Item 8A is the report of the Transportation Committee meeting of Thursday, October 21st. The summary of recommendations for this meeting is found on page 87 of your packet.
Thank you very much. And colleagues, you will recall that action items 8A and 8B before us today were discussed in further detail at yesterday's Transportation Committee and Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee before being presented to the full board. I'd like to specially note that the Transportation Committee received an informative presentation by the MTC and the Bay Area Rapid Transit District on their fare coordination, integration study, and business case. Thanks to MTC and BART for providing us with that presentation. With that, Chair Fredericks, would you please begin your committee's report to the board?
Thank you, President Parr. Board agenda item number 8A1. This is to authorize the general manager to negotiate and execute a joint exercise of powers agreement with the State of California Department of Parks and Recreation for use of ferry berthing facilities at Angel Island in a form approved by the attorney. Item number 2 under this motion is to implement a new ferry route between San Francisco Ferry Terminal and Angel Island to be implemented initially as a 1-year demonstration project. The third item under this motion is to schedule a public hearing to receive public comment on proposed fares for this demonstration route as detailed in the staff report. This report from the Transportation Committee begins on page 87. I now pause for action by the board.
I need a motion. Would you care to move that, please?
I will move that.
Thank you. So now I have a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. With that, are there any questions, comments, or concerns from board members on item 8A1?
Yeah, this is Dick Grunsel. I did have a question.
Go ahead, Dick. Certainly.
I see. I'm sorry I had to miss that presentation yesterday. I know. Yeah, I see you've got some weekend. You've got the schedules on page 4 of the memo. Will you anticipate increasing those schedules once we get to the summer? It wasn't clear to me. I assume so, but wouldn't there be more people during the summer months than now?
Certainly. Generally we provide service when there's demand for it. The initial schedule that's contemplated basically mirrors what Blue and Gold has been operating. Blue and Gold's been operating the service for some time, and they're looking at stepping out of it. So we would step into their shoes. So that's the initial schedule. But as interest in the service grows, the foundation has a new facility that they haven't opened yet on the island. We anticipate that this will be a very popular route, particularly with nice weather and as well as with school kids in San Francisco. So we're excited to take it over. We'll certainly add service as service demand increases.
And as far as we know, as far as these early morning times, I have heard some grumbling from the Tiburon and South Tiburon people about not early enough ferries. You know if there were any complaints about the current service to Angel Island? Were these times working?
State Park seems to think the current times work to get to the island, but we'll be flexible and work with them. This service is kind of ideal for us because before COVID, we would have a ferry boat take commuters from Tiburon to San Francisco, and then the boat would go back virtually empty to Tiburon to do another commute route. With this service, instead, we'll make a stop at the island and take the volunteers and the workers from San Francisco to the island, as well as school kids, and then go to Tiburon and do the next commute trip. So we think it dovetails nicely with our service, and it's an area that we see as ripe for being consistent with our mission of getting cars off the bridge by allowing people from San Francisco to easily access the island. With respect to early morning ferry service, it's not prudent to run a ferry boat for 10 people. And so if there's demand, we'll add a boat. Historically, we have not seen that large demand for an early vote out of Tiburon. When we come out the other side of the pandemic, we can check, and if there is, then we'll add service accordingly.
Okay, thank you, and I applaud you for finally getting this deal done with the state, with the parks in the state. So thank you. It looks good.
Thank you, Director Grospaul. And just a reminder that this particular motion and second is about the San Francisco to Angel Island route. Are there any more comments on that topic?
All right, thank you for that. Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We have a first from Director Fredericks and a second from Second Vice President Cochran, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. You have 16 ayes for new service to Angel Island.
That's very exciting. Thank you very much. President Parr, do you or I introduce the next item?
Would you please do it? I think I officially have to say that thank you, that particular item was adopted, but then please go ahead.
The next recommendation from the Transportation Committee is on your agenda item 8A2 on page 87. Approve establishment of a new capital project, Transit Signal Priority, TSP, on the Golden Gate Transit coaches. This is project number 2250. The approval is for fiscal year 21-22 bus division capital budget in the amount of $312,400 to be funded with 100% district funds, and authorize the general manager to negotiate and execute an agreement for the purchase of Golden Gate GGT Opticom 2101 TST equipment for up to 75 buses as concurred with the Finance Auditing Committee and detailed in the staff report. And I so move.
I have a motion, and I have a feeling there will be a number of seconds. May I have a second, please? Or none.
Second. Director Ferry.
Maybe here's where people will speak up. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? I think this is a very exciting time, and I have a feeling that people want to weigh in on that. Nothing? Are there comments from board members? All right. Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting on item 8A2 with the first from Director Fredericks and the second from Director Hill. Starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Hill.
Very excited, yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Yes.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
I'll say again, let them roll, yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 16 ayes.
Great. Thank you. The item is adopted. Chair Fredericks, do you have anything further to report?
That's the conclusion of recommendations from the Transportation Committee meeting of October 21st. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please continue on with the next item on the agenda?
Item 8B is the report of the Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee meeting of Thursday, October 21. Summary of recommendations for this meeting is found on page 89 of your packet.
Chair Arnold, would you please begin your committee's report to the board?
Yes, thank you, President Parr. The Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee is recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item Number 8B1 to approve a 2.5% wage increase and a $500 stipend per employee for non-represented employees and deputy general managers, effective on the first day of the pay period in which the Board of Directors approves the recommendation as presented in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion on the item. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Now, are there any questions, comments, or concerns from board members on item 8B1? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting again on item 8B1 with a first from Director Arnold and a second from Second Vice President Cochran, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Director Hernandez again.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Aye.
Thank you. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. You have 16 ayes.
Thank you. That item is adopted. Chair Arnold, do you have anything else to report?
Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Chair Arnold. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. We're moving on to items 10 since there are no addresses to the board under item 9. Item 10A is a new item relative to conducting remote committee and board meetings. I have a brief staff report on page 91 of your packet. And in summary, staff's recommending the board adopt a resolution in accordance with Assembly Bill 361, finding that the proclaimed state of emergency still continues to impact the ability to meet safely in person and allow us to continue remote meetings. In short, in March of 2020, Governor Newsom issued executive orders N2520 and N2920 in response to COVID-19 pandemic that suspended portions of the Brown Act that allowed our board members to participate in remote committee and board meetings. District staff immediately transitioned to all committee and board meetings to teleconference meetings to allow the board to continue conducting its business. And the specific executive order that waived certain requirements of the Brown Act expired on September 30th. However, last month, on September 16th, the governor signed Assembly Bill 361 into law. And effective October 1st, AB 361 amends the Brown Act to allow legislative bodies to meet remotely without complying with traditional teleconferencing meeting rules, provided there's a state of emergency and either one, state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, or two, the legislative body determines majority votes that meeting in person would present eminent risk to the health and safety of attendees. The governor declared state of emergency continues to be in effect, and both state and county officials where our board conducted meetings continue to recommend measures to promote physical distancing. With the current health orders also in place in the various counties, our teleconference meetings are in accordance with AB 361's requirements. But to qualify under AB 361, this body must, within 30 days of its first meeting under AB 361 and every 30 days thereafter, make findings that it has reconsidered the circumstances of the state of emergency and that either or both, A, the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability to meet safely in person, and or B, state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. Our first teleconference meeting that fell under AB 361's requirements was our October 1st special board meeting. And the board must adopt findings at this meeting that will allow for both committee and the full board to continue to meet via teleconference for the next 30 days without complying with traditional notice and access rules for teleconference meetings. So staff is respectfully requesting that the board adopt these findings with the understanding that the board would need to approve a similar resolution every 30 days if it wishes to continue to meet under AB 361's requirements for teleconference meetings. Staff will continue to monitor and bring forth any changes at the state and local level that might affect these remote meetings, and this matter will be brought again to the board before its November meeting and subsequent board meetings then thereafter if necessary. That wraps up my comments on this item. Madeline, did I miss anything?
Well, that seems like a very clear explanation of what's a pretty convoluted piece of legislation, but thank you very much. We will have to comply with a couple of provisions under AB 361 that safeguards the public's ability to comment. For example, if there's some disruption in the electronic transmission and people can't hear, then of course we would pause the meeting in order to fix that and then continue the meeting. So, there are some procedural safeguards that are in place under AB 361 to protect the public's right to listen in and to make comment.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for either Madeline or Amaret? Hearing none, may I have a motion on this item?
So moved. This is Patty.
Thank you. A second?
Second, Alice.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you again for the comprehensive report, Amaret. And would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting on item 10A, and we're going to start with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Terrio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
You have 16 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you. That item passes. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
10B is the discussion and possible action to terminate the suspension of board procedural rules and policies for COVID-19 related emergencies. You've seen this item before, and Mr. Mulligan's brief staff report is on page 93, and he's on the line to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any board members who have questions for Mr. Mulligan at this time? In that case, that concludes discussion on the item. Before we take our vote, is there anyone from the public to speak on this item?
Sorry about that. We actually have no speakers on these items.
All right, we just need to make sure. All right, it appears we should not be terminating the suspension of rules and policies at this time. May I have a motion to revisit the matter at our next regular board meeting on November 19th?
So moved,
moved, Melgar.
Second, Snyder.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're going to start with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosval.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. You have 16 ayes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Moving on with the agenda, we have no unfinished business or no new business to report. Item number 13 is communications. And as usual, if you would like a copy of any communications, please contact the District Secretary's office. With that, we reach the end of the agenda, and there are no further items to be presented to the board. Again, thank you to everyone who joined us today. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Rabbit.
All right, may I have a second?
Second.
All right. Hearing no objections, we'll be adjourning today's meeting in memory of four-star General and former United States Secretary of State Colin Powell, former Director Dean Meyer. Director Meyer served on our board as a Marin County representative from 1969 through 1975, during the time we began our transit service. Director Meyer also served on the Mill Valley City Council and served a term as mayor. So please join me in a moment of silence. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors. The time is 11:03.